So, guys, I wanted to talk about this red pill concept in that community, which spouses this narrative that in order for you to become a high value man, you need to engage in multiple relationships with women in order to dictate your particular sexual prowess and excellence, right? And, this narrative really doesn't sit well with my soul and in my heart. And I've been thinking about passing that idea out into something a little bit more palatable, and the reasons why I believe is actually a very, very harmful narrative. Now, I think one of the ones that starts off at school about this idea of being a prude, or let's say not sexually competent with women. And I 100% fell into that narrative when I was at school. I wanted to lose my virginity as quickly as possible to show to my friends and people at my school that I was competent with women. And I think if you don't evolve past that boy level of thinking, that kind of low level, low IQ psychology, then you'll forever be following that narrative into your early 20s and into your early 30s, maybe even your 40s and 50s when you have when you can't get a family because you're sleeping around with multiple women, right? Now, the reason why I believe this is so harmful and why the number one reason is why I would advise against it is because the number one factor for dictating future behavior is historical behavior, right? So the argument against this is, well, Joseph, I need sexual experience. I need to become proficient in knowing or having multiple different sexual experiences with many different women in order to ascertain how women behave, from various different sources, how they move, how they operate, and essentially how I can become very, very proficient and competent in seducing women across the board. And that will give me the best chances of me, hopefully, getting a high quality woman to ultimately be my life, right? To be my wife. Which again is maybe a hard... I can empathize with that point of view, but again, it's very low IQ level thinking. So, as I preface, is future behavior is predicated on historical behavior, meaning that if you have a long laundry list of people that you've slept with, right? Let's say it's over 50 women, then that doesn't dictate future long-term monogamous relationships. It dictates future short, fleeting relationships that are usually predicated on pleasure. This is the other thing, is when men say this, oh, I need sexual experience, that's a cope. That's a cope. You're not doing that because you want to self-improve, that you want to become competent with women. You're doing that because you want pleasure. Call it what it is. I'm not passing any judgment on you. You can do whatever the fuck you want to do, but don't pretend like you are doing it under the guise to improve yourself and find a wife. That's not what you're doing. If you are really set on this idea of a high quality woman to be your wife, and you wanted to know the best thing to do that, it would be to have as few relationships as you can and have them as long as you can, right? Those are going to be the markers that dictate future success in relationships. Not because you've had multiple relationships that are short lasting, that you have long relationships that are predicated on equal morals, equal values, and equal virtues. And that is going to be the bedrock, that is going to be the cornerstone of how you establish yourself with your wife, right? And what's really hurting you is if you continue to listen to these, again, I would call them very skewed red pill narratives like Fresh and Fit, like Andrew Tate, like some of these personalities here, is that you'll be forever pursuing a lifestyle that's predicated on pleasure and not predicated on joy, right? That's predicated on the sexual experience as opposed to something that an environment and value environment in which you can raise children and raise family, right? You also need to remember that what you experience, you can't take that back, right? The more and more partners you have with women, the more reference points you have for what it's like to be in a relationship with a woman. If you have, put it this way, if you slept with 3 people as opposed to you slept with 50, you have more points of comparison if you're the individual that slept with 50 people, which means that you are less likely to be content with future relationships because you're beginning to create a vast library of experiences in which you can pick out the positives and the negatives. You can turn around and say, well, this woman wasn't particularly good at this aspect of her life, wasn't good at, being nurturing or being feminine or being sexual, whatever the case may be, right? So it actually hurts you in the long term. That's the reason why arranged marriages are so successful, because there is nothing to compare it with apart from the marriage that you have. That is it, right? And that, I think, is the most noblest, most effective way to ensure long-term relationships, monogamy, and a holistic family life. I really believe so. But gentlemen, let me know what you think. I think it's a very interesting topic, and I'm not an ideologue. I really do believe that is the if your goals are set on reciprocity, monogamy, family, I think that's the way to go. But I could be wrong. You can tell me a different your ideas and what you feel has been what you feel is resourceful, or what you've experienced to be resourceful in your life. So I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking. Speak soon.